According to a massive new report from Rolling Stone this week, the Donald Trump White House was pretty much no different than a frat party because drugs and alcohol were just frickin' everywhere. And part of the reason for that is because a lot of these folks just simply hated their jobs. They needed a way to cope with working for a narcissistic madman, and so they turned to prescription drugs from the White House pharmacist. No doctor visits needed, no medical evaluations at all, according to this report that spoke to 4 former senior officials in the Trump White House. You could go to the pharmacist, basically place an order like you were ordering a burger at McDonald's, and they'd be right back in a couple minutes with your bottles of pills. Those pills, by the way, included modafinil, Adderall, fentanyl, morphine, ketamine, and Xanax. We are talking about very dangerous controlled substances for some of these drugs. In fact, one of the people who spoke to Rolling Stone, again, a former administration official, said the White House was, quote, awash with speed, just so everybody could cope with their jobs. Let me read you a couple of these quotes from some of these officials. You try working for him and not chasing pills with alcohol. Another one said, is it being done appropriately or legally all the time? No. But are they going to get to that end result that the bosses want? Yeah. Another one said, it was kind of like the wild, wild west. Things were pretty loose. Whatever someone needs, we were going to fill this. Xanax was also a popular, easy-to-get drug during the Trump years, 3 sources told Rolling Stone. And what makes it worse is that the White House pharmacists were afraid to say no to these people. And that's probably why this happened. The White House pharmacists, according to the report, believed that if they told people no, or if they raised any kind of alarms like, hey, we're giving out very dangerous drugs that people are overdosing from every day in this country, and it's just all over your White House, maybe somebody should look into that. So the pharmacists kept quiet because they didn't want to lose their wonderful position as the White House pharmacist. So they dispensed these drugs like candy. And it was all over the White House. Now, these reports do not indicate at all that any of these drugs went to Donald Trump himself. So we cannot make that conclusion at all from this. Based on what these people are saying, the drugs were for the staffers. The drugs were for senior officials. The drugs were for people with high security clearances. So we got people during the Trump years going through these classified documents, seeing things that you and I could only imagine, and they're all hopped up on speed. Or they popped a couple of Xanax and chased it with a couple shots of booze, according to the report. This is what the Trump White House was. And honestly, it's kind of shocking to me because this story, has now been out for 3 days. I wasn't even sure I was going to talk about it at first, but then once I got into it, I was like, well, I got to. But why is this not a bigger story? Why is this not all over the national news? Why did Rolling Stone have to break this story instead of the Washington Post or the New York Times? Now, don't get me wrong. Rolling Stone has some phenomenal investigative journalists. I've used them as a source for 20 years now because they're some of the best people out there. But people don't necessarily go to Rolling Stone for their political news of the day. They go to Washington Post, they go to CNN, they go to New York Times or MSNBC. Why is this not all over the place? Why is Trump not being asked these questions? Why do we not have investigations into the pharmacists at that White House? These are questions that unfortunately I cannot answer, but they're all questions that the American public desperately deserves answers to.